Hello everybody, welcome back to High Ground. My name is Tanner and today we're going to be going over the latest patch notes for Rainbow Six Siege. This is for Year 9, Season 2, and it is the Season 2.3 patch notes. Designer notes is what they actually call them. Let's get into them. We're going to start, before we look at the actual changes, with some of the data. Ashe, really high, not touched in this patch, but I don't think she needs to be. I think her really high pick rate is a combination of her versatility and her legacy factor and just the fact that she's pretty fun to play. She is a 3-speed with pretty reasonable guns and a highly versatile gadget, not necessarily the strongest. There are a lot more gadgets that are situationally stronger, but her gadget is almost always useful. You pretty much always need to blow open a wall or a ceiling or a floor or destroy a bulletproof gadget. You could even destroy non-bulletproof gadgets if it's somewhere that you can't get an actual line of sight on, but the explosive could hit it. So yeah, just a really solid operator. Doesn't need to be touched. I don't think this is necessarily indicative of anything. Maybe it reflects the current attitude of the game and the meta, but I don't think it's a big deal. And then we have Dokkaebi, Ace, and Buck. And Dokkaebi and Ace not touched in this patch, but Buck is. We'll look into that. Buck, another one, maybe not as fun to play depending on who you ask. If you don't want to use your gadget, maybe you like Ashe more, but I think if you lean heavily on a gadget, Buck makes more sense. He has probably the most widely applicable gadget in the entire game, because while he doesn't destroy bulletproof gadgets like Ashe does, and even less so after the change we're going to see, soft destruction is just such a massive part of this game, and nobody does it as good as him. Ram, if you need more safety, is a great pick. Sledge is fine, but he has some issues these days because of all the nerfs he's received. But Buck, he opens ceilings, floors, walls, all of them really quickly, and he can do a lot of it over the course of a round. Just a really great operator, and we'll talk about his change in a minute. Then we have a whole glut of operators, and let's look at the defenders now. Doc, really highly picked, highly here on console, but we'll see him, I think, standing alone in a moment. Wamai is being changed. Notice his position. Doc is alone at the top here. Wamai is pretty highly picked, but his win delta is not super high. We'll discuss him in a minute. You'll notice Melusi here. She's actually really high on the win delta and one of the most picked operators. She's getting some changes, but spoiler, they're more so buffs than nerfs. And other things to note, I guess you can take a look at Azami. She's being changed, and I think that's the last significant one. So let's just see where Azami is on the other one. Yeah, she's sort of down here. Her win delta is not actually great, but she's still one of the more picked operators. Maybe right around number 10 on console and number, I guess, 3 on PC. Okay, and then really quickly, the ban rates here. Dokkaebi and Jackal, the most banned attackers. Dokkaebi more so on PC and Jackal more so on console. They're just annoying to play against. People generally ban for what they find annoying rather than for strategies. And then we have some trap operators here at the top, along with Mira. People don't like playing against traps, and they definitely don't like playing against Mira. And yeah, Clash, also pretty highly banned on PC. Okay, so let's get into the actual changes here. We have the Kiba barriers of Azami being changed quite a lot, at least numerically. Really, all this boils down to is the number of bullets to destroy them is being reduced. 20 to 30% buffs to the damage of pretty much every caliber of weapon, and then a 150% buff to Kali's sniper rifle. I'm not sure if this means she'll destroy it in one shot now. I would guess either 1 or 2, but we'll see for sure. Not 100% on the deal with that. Azami was one of the big 3 defender for quite a while, along with Solis and Fenrir. Azami was the first one nerfed, but it didn't seem to hurt her that much when they made it so you could destroy her gadget with bullets. And a lot of time went by. Finally, they nerfed Solis and Fenrir, and those were pretty significant. And maybe now we'll see with this if this is enough to finally kill the big 3 to make them all into only reasonable operators. Okay, moving on to Buck. It's a small change, but it is one that I think a lot of people are questioning. Did Buck really need to be touched? Certainly one of the best operators in the game. Again, maybe more so for his versatility than his raw power, but I think in a game like this, versatility is inherently powerful. So I think maybe a little bit of a debate to be had there, but he's still really good without the Gon 6, which is the change. He's losing that Gon 6. He's got a pretty solid gun, really high rate of fire. Maybe it kicks more than some of the other assault rifles, but I'd say still generally a pretty solid gun. Really good gadget. And he's a 2-speed, not a 1-speed like the likes of Zofia, Sledge, Thatcher, a bunch of other attackers. And he has flashbangs, which is, I think at this point, pretty clearly the best secondary utility on attack. Sometimes you need maybe you need a frag for some gadgets, maybe you need secondary EMPs for some other stuff, but I think generally flashbangs are the strongest. So still a good operator. Let me know if you think this was a necessary change. We'll see how it plays out. I don't think it's going to have a massive impact on the game at large. And then we have Echo. So a while ago, he was a 1-speed. He was changed to a 2-speed, going back to a 1-speed again. I think this aligns with the intentions of Echo with his kit overall. He is intended to generally sit on site, drive his drones around, and disrupt the attackers, maybe enable some of your defenders. You can figure out what ground is clear to retake, things like that. And yeah, so if you're going to be on drones, no need to have extra speed. Maybe it'll be nice to have a little bit more HP when you finally get into an engagement later in the round. And to compensate for this, he was given the magnified scopes on his submachine gun. So yeah, they don't like to have too many operators that aren't 1-speeds on defense having these scopes, and so now he's granted them. So I think this aligns pretty well with the idea behind Echo. These seem like fine changes. Then we have Ela. This seems like another good change. Observation blocker being removed. I think that's pretty whatever. I don't think people generally value these pretty highly, but impact grenades, probably the best on defense. I think it's debatable. C4s and impact grenades and shields, and I guess even bulletproof cameras are really powerful gadgets, I guess, up to interpretation, and it is, of course, situational. But I think impact grenades are the most versatile, and we talked about how versatility is inherently power in this game. And I think it just fits with Ela's kit really well. When you take Ela, you want to run around the map, you want to take close range engagements, either with the shotgun or with that really high rate of fire SMG, and impact grenades help you do this. If you know there's somebody on the other side of the wall and you don't want to blindly spray into it, you can impact grenade and you can either run through it or you can then see them. You can use it as an escape option when you know the engagement is going to be unfavorable for you, which for Ela, if they are far away, is usually going to be unfavorable for you. If you need to pop a hatch or a wall and run away, you can do that. And you can use them to finish a down play or whatever. Impact grenades are just really, really good. And I think Ela could have used a little bit of a change, so this is nice. Gridlock, I guess you can buff Gridlock, no reason not to, but I don't think this is going to be really impactful. I think this is extremely niche, not only because Gridlock is picked really rarely, but her gadget, you can just shoot through it. If you're really, really desperate, you have to run through it. Maybe that'll kill you. Maybe that'll take enough HP off you to make you lose your next gunfight, whatever. I don't think this is a very meaningful change. It's whatever. Could have probably even increased it more, but I don't know. And then we have Melusi, probably the biggest one of the patch. We'll see how the Azami thing plays out, but I think a lot of people are sort of up in arms about this one because not strict buffs. She is losing access to her magnified scopes on her MP5, but in exchange, she's getting 4 of her gadget, 4 of those Banshees, and she's getting a secondary shotgun. This is the one that Mira and Jackal have, so pretty solid at making rotates. Not the best for taking engagements, but again, for opening sight lines and hatches and whatever, this is great. Melusi is a 1-speed, if you don't remember that. She was once upon a time a 3-speed, changed to a 1-speed. She's actually been nerfed a bunch of times over the years. Her gadget, her speed, her gun. She used to have the gun that Legion has, and now she has the MP5. I think a lot of people like the MP5, but I think the T5 pretty clearly a better gun. So yeah, is this just going to be oppressive having 4 of these things? They're not the juggernaut that they were when they first released, but they're still really annoying gadgets that get a decent number of value. And she was, as we could see up here, a pretty highly picked operator. Switches up on me here. Yeah, here's Melusi, really highly picked, and also the 4th highest win delta on console. And then whenever we switch back, yeah, also not as highly picked. It looks like she's maybe 6th or 7th, but 2nd highest win delta. And again, I would argue that the single nerf she gets here is a lot less impactful than the two buffs. So this is one to keep an eye on. They might have to just re-nerf Melusi in the future, but knowing Ubisoft, that is probably well down the road. They don't address OP things very quickly. And then finally we have Wamai losing the magnified scope on the MP5K. I always thought it was a little bit strange for him to have the ACOG on the MP5K and not the AUG. I also have heard some people say if you're going to remove it from him, maybe give it to Jaeger. I think this brings in line a lot of the operators. He was one of the few defenders that wasn't a 1-speed to have the magnified scopes, and I can't even think of other ones that do now. Maybe there's got to be at least like 1 or 2 that have access to an ACOG and are not 1-speeds, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. So yeah, this is fine enough. I don't know that it needed to happen, but I guess he could use a nerf. He is really high, most picked on console and still pretty highly picked on PC, and he's much better than Jaeger, who is way down here. Decent pick rate, but really low win delta. So I guess this is fine. Ubisoft really has this habit of, oh, it's this operator is too powerful, let's just take away some of their scope options. So I think debatable how good of a balancing strategy that is, but maybe this isn't the most egregious change ever. So that's going to do it for the patch notes. Let me know what you think about all of these, any of these, whatever you want to do, and I will catch you guys next time.